Anything that can be done with a for loop can also be done with a while loop. So to start off with, let's take a look at this for loop that we've got up here and see if we can rewrite it as a while loop. We've got this for loop, and when we run it, what does it output? Let's go ahead and run this module. We see that it runs numbers from 0 through 9. Of course, again, remembering that if you do it for I in range 10, you get the numbers from 0 to 9, but not 10. Now, if we want to rewrite this as a while loop, it takes a few extra lines of code. That's why we've got for loops, because a lot of times we just need to do something a certain set number of times, and so that we can code it quicker, we use for loops. But a while loop is slightly more flexible. A while loop to loop 10 times is going to look like this. We actually need to create the I variable ourselves and set it to an initial value. Then instead of for, we have while. And we need to put a condition, just like an if statement, and that condition will state when this while loop should continue. It doesn't state when the while loop should end. So as long as I is less than 10, I want to print I. And then we're going to add 1 to I at the end of the loop. So here's what's different about the while loop. First off, we need some sort of initialization of a counter. If we're going to do it for a set number of times, we need a condition. And you can't use the range in this. If you've got for range, that keyword range, it goes with for loops. Don't put a range inside of a while loop. It's not going to work the way you want it to. And then we've got our increment. It's nice in a for loop, kind of takes care of this all for us. With a while loop, we have to specifically state it, but it does give us additional flexibility because we can adjust this code and we don't have to take the defaults that the for loop gives us. So if I run this, you'll see that I get the same output as the for loop. I get the numbers from 0 through 9. As an example of something that's more flexible with a while loop that I couldn't do with a for loop, let's change this a little bit. Say that instead of just counting from 0 to 9, I want to count by powers of 2. So I'm going to loop as long as I is less than or equal to 2 to the 32nd power. And remember, that's basically going to be a 2 to the 32, which is equal to about 4 billion. I'm going to do that, and then instead of incrementing by I, I'm going to do I is equal to times equals 2. So it's going to take whatever the original value of I is, multiply it by 2. Now if I run the code right now, it's not going to work the way I want it to. See if you can spot the problem that I've got with my code right now. So if I run it, I hit run module, and it's just repeating the 0 over and over again. I can stop it from repeating the 0 over and over again by hitting Control C. But why did it do 0 over and over again? Well, if I take I, multiply it by 2, and my original value of I is equal to 0, it doesn't matter how many times I multiply it by 2, I'm always going to get 0. But if I start with 1 instead, and now run the program, you see that I end up getting my large number here. A little bit difficult to see because of lack of commas. And I've got just over 4 billion. So this is an example of something you can do with a while loop that you can't do with a for loop. Now, a much more common operation is looping until a certain condition is true, such as if the user wants to quit. Let's take a look at what that would look like. To start with, I'm going to create a variable called quit, and I'm going to set it equal to n. Now, I am going to loop as long as quit is equal to n. Then all I need to do here is an input. And when I run the program, do you want to quit? No, 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 yes. Of course, this isn't a perfect loop. If I run, do you want to quit? If I type in no, it'll go ahead and quit. Why? Because this right here is going to loop as long as quit is equal to n, not no, which to the computer is something entirely different than n. Now, if we want to expand out our game and make it even better, this is one way of doing it. We can set done equal to false. Done is equal to a Boolean variable. It can either be true or false, and I can loop while done is equal to false. I'll keep looping. Another way I could write that is the following: while not done, and this keyword not right here will take whatever is in this variable done and flip it the other way. So if done is false, not done will be true. If done is true, not done will be false. I'm just going to copy this in here rather than make you wait while I type it out. This program right here, I've got two different ways that this program could end. Either right here, if the user types Y from this input, it's going to change done to true. If they type anything else, done is going to stay the original value. This is the first way for that to end. The second way, if the user types in yes for does your elf attack the dragon, then they're just automatically going to die. Not a very interesting adventure game, yes, but if they type in yes to attack the dragon, they're going to die and this loop is going to quit. If they do anything else, then the loop will keep going on. Let's go ahead and try that. Do you want to quit? No. Do you want to attack the dragon? No. Do you want to quit? No. Do you want to attack the dragon? While this is getting born, I'll go ahead and attack the dragon. Oh, darn, I died. Unfortunately, this isn't perfect because you may have already spotted. If I run it right now, do you want to quit? No. No. Do you want to quit? If I type yes, what happens? Does your elf attack the dragon? It doesn't quit immediately. And why? Well, let's take a look at that code. This happens first. Do you want to quit? If the user types in yes, it sets done to true, but it will continue on down here. Does your elf attack the dragon? I haven't told it to only do this if the user hasn't quit. How would I fix that? A quick way of actually fixing this is you could say if not done and then do this stuff. So I've got an if inside of the while statement and an if inside of the if. It makes the program just a little bit more complicated, but do you want to quit? No, I don't want to quit. Does your elf attack the dragon? No. Do you want to quit? Yes. And then the program ends because if I type that I want to quit, done will be true. If done is true, so if not done, so done is true, it'll take true, switch it to false. If false, well, it won't do any of this. This will skip if we're done. You'll see some similar type of loop to this in a lot of different types of game. Our main program loop in our games will be done with a while loop. Okay, here's an example of a common problem with a while loop. Take a look at this code for a little bit, hit pause if you need, and see if you can figure out what the programmer has done wrong in putting this code together. It's really important to be able to look at code and figure out what's wrong with the code. Okay, if you're still not sure, what you need to do is sort of follow it. I equals 10, all right? I is equal to 10. While I is equal to 0. Is I equal to 0? No, it's not. If I is not equal to 0, it will skip everything that's here and just continue on, which there is no more code. If I run this, absolutely nothing happens. And that can be really hard to debug because you have no idea what's going wrong. What the user actually needs to do is while I is greater than or equal to 0. So I need to change this right here to greater than or equal. and run the module. It's a common mistake to put the condition in here and make this condition the condition that you want to have exit the loop. But what that condition actually states is when to loop. This is another really common mistake. Take a look at this code and see if you can figure out what's wrong with it. So if I trace this, what's I to begin with? I is equal to 1. Is 1 less than 10? It is, so we keep looping. Great. I print out 1. I now loop. What's I equal to? It's not equal to 2. I never increased it. It's equal to 1. I print out. I've got 1, and then I've got 1, and then I've got 1. If I run this, that loop will never stop. See how it prints 1 over and over again? I just hit Control-C real quick. That'll stop it. What the person has forgot to do is, right here at the end, they need to do I plus equals 1, which is equivalent to saying I equals I plus 1. And now if they run it, then it counts up.